So Billy, you couldn't quite get through it, huh? Springs,
She can do tomorrow or Thursday.
regionals.
Eileen.
Let's do it tomorrow.
Right,
if we
but
can.
if they,
We going? Call the roll, please.
Tomorrow at 5:15.
Mayor Bain.
I'm here.
Vice Mayor Zapata.
Here.
Councilman Best.
present.
Councilwoman Mitchell.
Yes, here.
Councilman Petrolanda.
Here.
Would you please stand for invocation? Councilman Best.
Saint Michael the Archangel, defend us in battle. Be our defense against the wickedness and snares of the devil. Hail, Holy Prince, that by your fortitude and by the power of Almighty God we beseech that you cast into hell Satan and all the other evil spirits which prowl through the world seeking the ruin of souls. Amen.
Okay. We'll say the pledge. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands.
One nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay, we're going to have a presentation, and this time we're going to have it with the right verbiage. That our city clerk and I got the memos from the great president of the Optimist Club, Carl Bithorn, and somehow we combined everything into one, and we did wrong. So I'll let who do you think should go first, and we'll let the winner go last to say their speech. Brethel, come on. You can stand at the podium and you can read your. You want to read it or you don't? Go ahead. You have the floor.
Okay. Right. The roots of my optimism stem from an unexpected source: obstacles. My family history has played an integral role in developing my perception of the world. My parents come from a country in which they were denied opportunities, but with hard work, optimism, and perseverance, they achieved what was once unattainable just a mere 90 miles away from home. My mother, along with her elderly parents, fled to the United States to seek refuge when she was 15. In less than 4 years, she learned English and attended Florida International University, where she earned a bachelor's in international relations and Spanish education. She later earned a master's in teacher of English for speakers of other languages and a specialist degree in school counseling. My father arrived to the United States when he was 28 years old and quickly learned English, being accepted to the police academy only 4 years after arriving. He encourages me to take advantage of the opportunities this great nation has to offer. For as a son of a political prisoner, he suffered continuous persecution and was subject to unlawful search and seizure, violating his fundamental human rights. My parents have both instilled the value of education and determination by encouraging me to be a well-rounded individual who takes advantage of the opportunities to further my education. My parents' sacrifices have granted me possibilities unattainable elsewhere. Their stories inspire me to remain optimistic, even when it feels like the odds are against my favor. My personal experience has also contributed to my optimistic outlook. It was a struggle throughout most of my years of schooling. There were no amounts of requests, no amounts of pleading, or of hopeful prompting by teachers that would encourage me to speak. My responses were either complete silence or a frail 3-second, 30 decibel sentence. My extreme shyness got the best of me for multiple years. It held a firm stranglehold on my ability to express myself. I was referred to as the quiet one by all my teachers and peers. In first grade, my teachers held an intervention with my parents. They explained that I was excelling in academics, but refusing to verbally demonstrate my acquired skill set. This encounter led to a multitude of evaluations with the psychologists to uncover the root of this condition and determine if I needed any form of treatment. I recall taking an IQ test during one of these interventions, doing exactly what I was asked to do, but later completely refusing to talk during the oral questioning portion. Shyness branded me, not. Numerous evaluations and interventions later, my condition was identified: shyness. These professionals advised that I should be challenged in class and mandated to interact in group exercises. In 4th grade, after years of constant assistance from my dedicated parents and teachers, I was reevaluated for entry into the gifted program. However, this time around, there was a sizable difference. I answered every question, a feat that would have been deemed impossible before. During my middle school years, my social studies teacher observed potential in me and encouraged me to join the academic teams she managed. These involvements not only shaped my understanding of the world, but greatly improved my ability to articulate my thoughts. The importance of communication became clear in the summer of 7th grade. I was granted the opportunity to conduct research at the University of Miami. Beside the dietary habits of monkeys, this experience taught me the value of networking and sharing ideas. By my freshman year, I was expressing myself adequately, but I was still not confident in my abilities. Every time my name was called, I experienced the same habitual suffocating nervousness. It all changed my sophomore year. The moment I stepped foot into that debate classroom, I felt the tightness in my stomach, the constriction in my throat. Self-deprecating thoughts bombarded me. You can barely utter a sentence. How are you supposed to debate? A new voice inside my head prompted me. You have improved. Your presentation skills have been refined. I decided to listen to that voice and remain in the class. A few weeks into the class, I noticed changes and foreign sensations. I felt confident when going up to deliver an address or speak in favor or against the topic. I was now liberated from the extreme shyness that for so many years suppressed my voice. Attending competitions and conferences, I was doing the inconceivable, standing in front of an audience, proposing a resolution for a global issue, or arguing the negatives to unregulated trade. Even more preposterously, I achieved an honorable mention at a Model UN conference. Overcoming shyness was an arduous trek. I affirmed that it would not have been possible without every individual that assisted me along the way. They empowered the young child who refused to utter a word, conquer her anxiety. With support and a large dose of optimism, anything is possible. We can even emancipate ourselves from our impediments and achieve fulfillment.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Here.
Thank you.
Be quiet, Carl. You grew up with me, so remember, you're part of this.
Where are the roots of my optimism? They lie in my family's history and my athletic participation.
There you go.
Optimism is one of the perspectives to a heavily debated philosophical problem. Is the glass half empty or half full? An individual's perception uncovers a lot about one's character. An optimist and a pessimist differ in their perception of the world. For as long as I can remember, I have always been an optimist. Approximately 40 years ago, a family of 13 resided in a congested nipa hut, a house made of bamboo and palm leaves, in an Iloilo barangay in the Philippines. Every day was a struggle for the aging couple and their 11 children. Growing up, these children were subject to intensive labor and had to harvest starfruit in order to obtain the pencil and paper necessary for a day of school. They woke up at 4:30 every morning to walk 5 miles to school, a journey that required wading through rivers and crossing muddy rice fields barefooted. During a typical downpour, these children traversed twice that distance just to receive an education. Water was acquired through a communal pump and had to be boiled in order to relieve the supply of harmful pathogens. Food was so scarce that it was not uncommon for them to skip a meal. Electricity, this was virtually non-existent to them. Unlike the privileged children living in developed countries who have the luxury to watch TV whenever they please and eat whatever they desire, this was a cruel reality of my mother's upbringing. My mother did not allow her harsh childhood to determine her future and used it as an incentive to build a better life for our family. With the help of a kind-hearted American couple, my mother was able to pursue her dream of becoming a nurse. However, she gave up her career to prioritize her growing family by raising my sister and I, while my father worked the graveyard shift as a nurse. Anyone traversing to the United States views opportunities from an optimistic manner as they migrate to start a new life and better themselves. The privileges I have in America, because of my parents' sacrifices, have greatly contributed to my optimism. I commenced my endeavor on the high school tennis team as a shy freshman. As time went on, my transition towards leadership became more apparent. My peers started coming to me for advice. Daily reminders of practices and matches became a habit. I officially became the team captain my junior year and led the tennis team through a winning season. My motto is similar to that of Roger Federer's, win with honor, lose with pride. Athletics, at any level, are extremely competitive. Gloating after a victory is disrespectful. However, losing should inspire an athlete to peacefully accept the loss and train harder while remaining optimistic. Actively competing against fellow athletes has ignited the fighting spirit that burns inside of me. This fighting spirit is what keeps me motivated to succeed and continues to blaze off the tennis court. My sophomore year was not one I consider my best. I was unable to qualify for the HOSA, Health Occupation Students of America, regional competition. My grades were not up to my usual standard, and I had lost in the first round of the tennis district tournament. Most people would view this as a slump and just admit defeat. However, this fighting spirit, this optimism, pushed me to do better and find a way over this hurdle. Since then, it has all been uphill. My HOSA team and I achieved first place in regional competition and second in the Florida State Leadership Conference. I was also able to advance to the finals of the tennis district tournament, and I was even able to put my GPA up to an all-time high of 4.8 while juggling a rigorous class schedule, 2 sports, and heavy involvement in 3 clubs. As an aspiring pharmacist, I hope to develop life-saving drugs that can cure illnesses and drastically better the standard of living for all citizens of the world, regardless of nationality or socioeconomic status. Even if there are arduous tasks ahead of me, I still believe that I can achieve anything due to my optimistic outlook on life. And now I ask you, is the glass half empty or half full?
Very nice. Ms. Suarez. This was the young lady who won the $1,500 scholarship. Second in the district.
All right, here we go. Where are my roots of optimism? My roots of optimism lie with my mother, my single mother. I'm not saying that she's optimistic because she's a single parent. I'm saying that although she's fought and faced many challenges, she still manages to find a way to look at a glass filled with water and say that it's half full. Now, the meaning of optimism is more than just a glass of water. It's a way of life. Optimism, according to the Merriam-Webster Dictionary, means hopefulness and confidence about the future or the successful outcome of something. Being optimistic can be the reason someone gets a better job, a nicer home, or even a newer car. My mother became a single parent the day I was born. Mind you, I'm an only child, so my mother entered the whole parenting stage completely unaware and on her own. Yet she still managed to do the best any single parent could, and gave me the opportunity to do things most kids couldn't. Because of her, I've taken 7 years worth of dance classes, 4 years worth of band and choral studies, and because of her, I even got to fly planes, because she put me in the Civil Air Patrol Cadet program. But after being laid off from a job that she had for 15 years, we as a 2-person family spiraled down. My mother did nothing but blame herself for her lost job. It even came down to the point where she'd apologize to me sometimes for being a quote-unquote bad parent and for not providing me things that other parents had provided their kids. And in that moment, I realized that all we were doing was being pessimistic, and it was taking us further away from a solution. My mother and I decided that from that day on, there was no need to look at things so negatively. It took my mother about a year to find a job. With that being said, that year was pretty rough, physically and emotionally. After a year of depleting approximately 20 years worth of her retirement funds just to stay afloat and not be overdue on any bills, as well as many weeks of long interviews, and although she did have several offers, she turned them down due to a lack of pay. My mother finally received a phone call informing her that she had gotten a job at a well-known traveling company. The wait paid off, but she wouldn't have gotten anywhere if it weren't for her optimistic views. Right now, my mother has a better job than she did before. And even after 12 years of living in a small apartment, we've moved to a place that we're both proud to call our home. Not only that, but my mother has done an amazing job when parenting me. She played the role of both parents, making sure I wouldn't feel left out. So in the end, when asked where my roots of optimism are, I can't help but think of my mother and all the struggles that she's gone through and how she's overcome them. How she had been thrown a problem one right after the other and has risen from each one, coming back a wiser, stronger, and more optimistic person. My optimism lies with my mother. Without her, I wouldn't be able to take the situations that life throws at me and act accordingly and know that in the end, everything would be all right. Seeing the cup as half full instead of half empty is the best way to look at life. This is true. But I like to think of it as not only it being half full, but it also has a couple ice cubes in it. The ice cubes representing the struggles and the everyday challenges that people face. And only a true optimist will know that in the end, those things will melt. Thank you.
Very nice. Yeah, let's take a picture. Carl, come on.
He's teaching them how to pose now.
Just so you know, they only had like a month to prepare.
Unreal, right?
And she only did it, Red only had like, she got in there last minute, she only had like a week and a half. So, very special experience.
Sure.
You want to come up in the middle? You can come up in the middle and take the picture. You all right? Got it?
Got it.
Okay there, Mama? All right.
Thank you.
Nice job, you guys.
I did on purpose to get you 2 times in a row. This working? You got it? Miss Bryson? You think you can make a speech like that after this? This is a certificate of recognition to William and Irene Bryson of 130 Sunset Way for their home being designated as the Yard of the Month for June 2018, presented the 29th day of May 2018. Congratulations for keeping our city so nice. And I'm sorry your husband couldn't be here. He's pulling weeds, I bet. Would you like to say anything, or you're
Thank you.
okay? Have a nice night. Take care. Come on, Dan. Okay, we have Kathleen Rodriguez. Is that your name? Connie Rodriguez.
Hi, Rodriguez. Hello. Good evening. I don't know the answer to this question, so I wanted to ask the council if this is possible. So I'm sure you guys recognize me. I'm kind of involved with a lot of things in the community, so I'm very grateful for that opportunity. Yesterday at Memorial Day, I was there with our scouts, and also I recruited some band kids to play at the service. So I'm just here tonight to ask if it's possible to know there is a concession building at the pool. And in the summer, it's closed. And so I wanted to see if it's possible if the city would open up, I don't know, an opportunity for a lot of the youth organizations here in the Miami Springs area, where, let's say, for example, between, softball, scouts, band, you name it, if they had an opportunity to man the concession stand one weekend a month or during the summer. So visually, or what I'm thinking about, or what I'm trying to propose here is, again, if it's possible, the city probably would manage the calendar to give every opportunity to every youth organization here in the Springs, to where they can man the concession stand with, chips, sodas, things like that. Usually every organization is under some kind of insurance binder. So, for example, the band has their own insurance binder, etc. So it would be like a community bake sale every weekend. Again, the first round would be every opportunity for every organization, and then once that's done, let's say by June 15th, for example, after that point, then if there's an organization that wants to do a second weekend or a third weekend, they can do so at that time. So that's what I'm proposing. I don't believe there's a company that is there, and I'm just asking just for the weekends only.
Okay, thank you. I think that to go ahead and say is to communicate with Omar and Omar Luna at there, and then he'll go with the manager and see if they can work something out and get some guidelines to do it.
Right, because again, I'm trying to be open with, not every organization might want to take that opportunity, but I know with Boy Scouts, for example, they have a summer camp coming up. If they were able to do a couple weekends in June, for example, before their camp out, that would cover the transportation costs. Because,
Yeah,
so
maybe they can work something out with you.
Okay, perfect.
Thank
All
you.
right.
Your phone number?
Sure.
Okay.
All right. Thank you. Thank you,
Okay.
thank you.
Ms. Stefan?
Hi. How are you?
Good.
Evening.
Good.
Genevieve Stefan, also known as
the
Deb
name?
Stefan.
Okay.
My neighbor came by this a little bit earlier and handed me the agenda tonight. Otherwise, I wouldn't have seen it because I didn't print it out this week. And there's a couple of things on here I'd like to bring up. Okay. On other business discussion on a possible dog park at Reagan Park. We've been here, done that. I think Mayor Bain might remember quite a few years. I went around and got a petition because the whole neighborhood was against having a dog park at that park. We fought a year and a half to get that park cleaned up. No craziness going on over there. A lot of the neighbors walk their dogs over there. But we already have a dog park. Why do we need another one? So I would like you to consider that, and I'll listen to the discussion. On the corner of LeBaron and Forest Drive, there is an abandoned house, probably for about 10 years, 8 to 10 years. And the police department is there like every week. We had squatters for about 6 months. It took the city forever to get them out. We have had run-ins with middle school kids all year. We're always calling the police department to come. And also, just recently, now there's drug squatters breaking into the house. I don't know what the city can do about it, but it has been abandoned. I don't know what's going on with it. But all of us keep up our houses around the neighborhood. I know the city finally got where they're cleaning the yard up, or having somebody clean up the yard. So, if
What
there's
was
something
that address again?
1410 LeBaron. And one other thing, I don't know what the code enforcement is doing. I don't know what the code enforcement number is. There is an apartment building at the end of Forest Drive on Royal Poinciana. I think it's 375 South Royal Poinciana Boulevard. They throw trash out there, and I think the ordinance says that you're not to have the trash out there before the day before. I'm not too sure. But if you go look right tonight, because of course there wasn't a pickup yesterday, but since the day after they picked up over a week ago, there's couches, there's a toilet, there's beds, there's mattresses, there's all kinds of stuff. And it's laying there now because of, we had a
Missed the
holiday.
pickup.
I'm sorry?
Yeah, because of the holiday they missed.
I know, but it's every week. As soon as trash is picked up, they throw stuff out there. And I believe there's an ordinance that you have to wait for the day before. Like a Sunday, they should be bringing that stuff out. But I guess when people move out of the apartments, they just dump it out there. Maybe other people are dumping it there. But that is such an eyesore on that street. So, but thank you all.
Thank you. That concludes the open forum. We'll continue with the agenda. We have 6A, and we thank all the people that come to talk at the open forum. We have 6A, May 14, 2018 regular council meeting.
Motion to move, Mayor.
Call a vote.
Vice Mayor Zapata?
Yes.
Councilman Best?
Aye.
Councilman Mitchell?
Yes.
Councilman Petrolanda?
Yes.
Mayor Payne?
Yes. Then we have 9A, a resolution.
This is consent agenda, funded or budgeted items. A resolution of the Mayor and City Council of the City of Miami Springs, Florida, approving a lease extension between the City of Miami Springs and Charles DeLongchamp for a police department substation at 274 Westwood Drive, providing for implementation, providing for an effective date. This is the CPO station across the street, and it's funded with LETF funds.
A motion?
Motion to approve item 9A is read.
Second, with discussion, please.
Yes.
I got first and second discussion.
Mr. Alonso, is this a 5-year lease that we conduct with Mr. DeLongchamp every year?
Annual. We renew it.
It's yearly.
We renew it annually.
It is
yes.
yearly. Okay. Okay.
Call a vote.
I have one more
Oh. Go ahead.
item. I wanted to ask, can we, it's a lease, but can we spruce up the front of that somehow? It's not very attractive in that. If there's something, I would like to suggest if there's something that we could look into to spruce it up. I think one of the things is we tape a lot of notices on the window, and when you walk on that block, all the other businesses look kind of nice, and it would be nice if that one could also be a little more attractive. So I would like to suggest that.
I'll have the chief
Okay.
see what we
Thank
can
you.
do.
Any further discussion? Call the vote.
Vice Mayor Zapata?
Yes.
Councilman Best?
Aye.
Councilwoman Mitchell?
Yes.
Councilman Petrolanda?
Yes.
Mayor Payne?
Yes. 10 old business we have done today. We're 11A, new business, a resolution.
This is the best resolution. A resolution of the Mayor and City Council of the City of Miami Springs, Florida, urging the Florida State Legislature to adopt legislation requiring carbon monoxide detectors in schools, providing for a transmittal and providing for an effective date. If you remember at the last meeting, Councilman Best's daughter gave a nice presentation, and this is the result of that.
Sure. Can I have a motion?
I'll move to
Second.
motion.
Call the vote.
Vice Mayor Zapata?
Yes.
Councilman Best?
Aye.
Councilwoman Mitchell?
Yes.
Councilman Petrolanda?
Yes.
Mayor Bing?
Yes.
Mayor, if I might, I'd just like to mention my daughter would have been here tonight. She has an academic engagement she had to satisfy, and she was very thankful if and when we did pass this resolution, and I fully expect she'll be at the next meeting to thank all of you for it. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilman. And it's a good thing that she's doing, trying to help us out.
Thank you, Mayor.
We go to 11B, a resolution.
This is a resolution of the Mayor and City Council of the City of Miami Springs, Florida, approving a memorandum of understanding with the Florida International University Board of Trustees on behalf of Florida International University for law enforcement resources assistance, providing for an authorization, providing for implementation, providing for an effective date. This is an item brought forward by the chief, and he's here to answer any questions you may have.
Just explain what this is, that's all. For me, I may have questions.
It's a what we call an MOU, which we have with numerous law enforcement agencies throughout Miami-Dade County. In the event that the FIU police has an event there and they need additional resources, they can reach out to us and we provide the resources, such as we do at the football stadium or at the arena in downtown Miami.
Good. That's good for our officers.
Right. And they've already reached out to us to do that, but I said we have to have this in place before we can do it.
Gotcha. Did they ask you to go out there and do anything?
No.
Not yet? I don't.
Off-duty police officer.
Correct.
I'll entertain a motion.
Motion to move the item, sir.
Second.
Call the vote, please.
Vice Mayor Zapata?
Yes.
Councilman Best?
Aye.
Councilwoman Mitchell?
Yes.
Councilman Petrolanda?
Yes.
Mayor Bing?
Yes. We have other business. We have discussion with Councilwoman Mitchell about traffic calming devices in key city areas effective to affect speeding.
Okay.
I think it's like.
Well, actually, my discussion was more just on traffic calming in general. At our last meeting, the chief did an excellent, provided us with an excellent report showing us a 3-year history of traffic enforcement, and I think it made it very clear that the police our police department is very diligent in enforcing traffic safety here in the Springs. They're out as much as they can. I think this was initiated because we were having so many residents complain about the speeding in Miami Springs. And I don't see how we can expect the police to do more than they're doing, because obviously there are a lot of other things that, that your officers need to devote their time to, Chief. So the traffic calming issue is just something to augment the traffic enforcement. And since the last meeting, I've been looking into what are the possibilities with traffic calming. I've spoken to a lot of people. I've spoken to the chief traffic engineering for the Florida Department of Transportation, the chief traffic engineer for Miami-Dade County, and numerous other experts in this. And realistically, traffic calming devices are expensive. Anything that we're talking about is going to be very expensive. Will require traffic studies. The county will conduct a traffic study for us free of charge if we were to meet the 85th percentile of speeding above the traffic limits, which we're not going to qualify for that. So the other option would be that we conduct our own traffic study, and then the county would work with us. But realistically, even if we were to conduct these traffic studies for a traffic calming, unless we have the money to implement the traffic calming devices, the traffic study is not going to be much good. So, what I'd like to suggest, and these are just some things, just because this is the only time we can talk, and I wanted to kind of just have a brief discussion with the council about this, is one of the things that I think is possible in talking to one of the residents here in Miami Springs who has a lot of experience with traffic engineering is perhaps allocating a small amount at each budget for traffic calming and take a long-term approach if we could get the assistance of the chief, maybe working with some residents who are interested in looking at the whole traffic calming issues in Miami Springs, and come up with some suggestions of areas that could benefit. And traffic calming, I should state, involves a variety of things. It involves speed bumps, which those are to really lower the speed, but it also involves speed humps, speed lumps. There's also traffic, I forget what they call them, but they're flat so that the pedestrians, the speed, what?
Speed tables.
Speed tables. And then there's the roundabouts, which are really effective, highly effective, and very pretty and attractive. They're very expensive. Four-way stops are usually looked down upon because for most intersections what happens is somebody runs the four-way stop and they tend to cause more accidents than you would expect. So there's a variety of options that may be available for certain intersections or certain locations. I did want to say with traffic humps and traffic lumps, it's kind of funny when you're reading all this. I'm checking this and I'm going, is this really true?
Yeah.
Anyway, one of the big issues, it sounds great, and people would say, oh, I want those on my street, but the reality is they're very noisy as cars go over them. So most people might want them on their street, but they're not going to want them in front of their house. They're going to want them in front of a neighbor's house. And they're only effective if you have a series of them every so often. So if you only have one, here, and you don't have another one for another time, what happens is the vehicles speed up. So that said, I think perhaps instead of just tabling the whole traffic issue and putting all the onus on the chief and the department to enforce the speeding issues and the speeding concerns, that we also look at the possibility of long-term investment in traffic calming by having a group of citizens, and I'm thinking possibly an advisory board, which our architectural review board, in reading what they're designed for, they may be able to tackle this and work with the city manager and the chief long-term, identifying, and we'll identify one or two places for next year and one or two places for the following year, and little by little, if we set aside a little in the budget for this, overall we'll be improving the traffic issues here in Miami Springs, the speeding issues.
So you're considering for this upcoming budget?
Possibly, but even for that, it would be great if we had some idea of what street might be a priority. Obviously, South Royal Poinciana from East Drive to North to Lejeune is a priority, but we're already working on that. I know that there's talk of a roundabout on East Drive and Oakwood. That
there was talk. As I explained to you, what happened was that lady that lives in the corner home, there are many accidents there and the vehicles end up in her yard. So she asked the county to come out there, and they came out and did a traffic study. They would not approve a four-way stop, but they would approve a circle. And I know Tom had gotten preliminary numbers back when this was done about a year ago, and it was about $230,000. And the county, they did the circle over on Bluebird back in '09, I believe it was, and they paid for it at that time. But we're trying to see if they have funding, and they don't have any funding at this time for any of these things. But in talking to the chief, we identified 6 areas where he gets most of the complaints.
Okay.
Ludlam, Westwood Drive, North and South Royal Poinciana, South Drive, Hunting Lodge, and Curtis Parkway. And the problem with those streets, like I was talking to the chief, they're long stretches. So if you put traffic bumps, or you'd have to do it every so often, so that, as you said, you don't leave enough space where people can speed up. And I'm sure, as you know, the county is going to require traffic studies for all these things. And then whatever the cost is of implementing whatever they're comfortable with approving.
So is this something that you feel you could use the assistance of, say, an advisory board being involved to help, or you've pretty much already got an idea of pinpointing where? And again, this isn't going to be a short-term fix, but obviously these speeding issues are never going to go away.
to say to go away, there's a couple things we got to consider also. They're giving their heart and soul to, and if you read the statistics of what they're doing with the different shifts and everything, if we're going to think about spending money in a budget, as he said the other day, he might request 2 more police officers or whatever the case may be. As far as I'm concerned, in the budget would be more behoove us more important to maybe think about the money for police officers to help enforce the city, and this stuff what you're talking about is maybe down the road. You also got to consider, I know that when the Bluebird Circle went in, the fire department was very upset because they gave them you got to remember about getting safety crews in and out of the city. If you slow certain thoroughfares down that they can't get out for emergencies, I mean, this study has to be, somebody with expertise, and I'm not going to go with the advisory board unless I understand what their expertise are to do this. But I know that the Bluebird situation coming off there, the fire department was very upset because that's an outlet that they couldn't get out where they wanted to be.
And you remember what happened during that period? The fire department went over there and practiced for like 2 weeks.
Yes, they practiced to turn on
big
it.
Trucks around
so to get out. Now, if you're going to slow down somebody's thoroughfares to get out of the trestle and out of the city to go to Palmetto Hospital and everything like that, there's more to consider than just slowing down traffic. But I think the chief is making that the police department and the chief is making a lot of headway. As I drive around the city, everything seems to have slowed down quite a bit. And there's always going to be outliers. I don't care, nobody's not going to tell me that there's exceptions, because there are. But I think on the whole, going down to Ludlam, coming home from work 4 o'clock, and when I go down to the 7-Eleven to buy my lotto tickets, everything seems to be slowing down. So I don't mind putting a little money into the budget, but we have a big project going on Poinciana over there, and that's going to be something with $20,000 of CITT money for that study. And then if everything comes true and the county does it, we have to. I think you have to. I understand what you want to do, but I think it's got to be analyzed at a minimal cost. But I don't mind trying to put a little money into the budget for this. But I think when we get to the budget, we could think about it. But there's other priorities that
And that's
have
all
come
I'm
up.
asking, Mayor.
Yeah,
Is
okay.
just something for the council to think about.
Okay.
I really don't have any hard and fast recommendations other than one thing that I found out from talking to so many people is that we tend to expect when we see somebody speeding, we tend to think, where are the police, or why don't the police see them, or something. And realistically, we can try to enforce that by just nicely asking the person to slow down. Sometimes that's just as effective.
I don't recommend that to people to do that.
Just to think about that.
No,
okay.
no.
Chief, would you not recommend that?
No,
Okay.
don't do that.
Okay.
That's
I'd like
not good.
I'd like to add something. While I understand that those long stretches, like those streets that don't have any stops, it would be unrealistic to really have like bumps every so often. But there are certain streets, like we talked about, for example, Lenape, right before you get to Westport, there have been accidents there. I, for one, was a victim of an accident there in 2006 that my car was totaled. But I'm more concerned about the fact that like Lenape and Payne, right adjacent to the park where kids are coming in and out, if we really took a look at those areas where children are by themselves, coming back and forth to the park and home and the recreation center, maybe just around that perimeter, look at placing some of those bumps if we could down the road, if our budget allowed it. But otherwise, I'm in agreement with everything else that was said in terms of the huge cost and the accessibility of coming in and out of the city.
Through the chair, I was talking to a friend over the weekend, who happened to be from Massachusetts.
Not from Miami Springs.
No. but in a town similar to our population. Nonetheless, I shared the chief's report that he issued at the last meeting with this friend of mine. And he looked at this and he said, you ought to go nationwide with this thing. And the second point I want to make is the recent blurb that we got in our iPad about the sting that the chief set up with his additional thing for, was it 4 days, was it, that he ran this?
He's trying to...
Yeah. 121 stops, 92 traffic tickets issued for speeding, over 10 miles an hour.
That was last week.
2 separate days.
Last week, right.
The week before was
2 separate things.
2 separate days.
And my point, I think you're surveilling this wonderfully. And like you're saying.
I think the reputation comes back that when like
nobody's going to speed through Miami
a lot
Springs
of,
if this
a lot of
continues.
my sons are my son's generation that are 33, from 30 to 38. Then people 30, 38, they come to me and they say, "Man, when I used to drive here, if I went over the speed limit of 35, what's going on around here, Mary?" They come to me about that like that, and because of the officers that were here, they'd stop the people. That reputation has started as I talk to them now. This was about 6 or 8 months ago. I talk to these young men now and young women that went to school here. They feel that they're my gauge of what's going on. They're feeling the difference. In fact, you even stopped one of them. He got stopped, and it was funny to hear him say, "Yeah, this young officer came up to me." I'm looking at him as a kid this tall. He's saying the officer's younger than him. He was very cordial and nice, and he stopped. And they thought that was a great thing that they got stopped. Not that they got a ticket, but that they got stopped. So I can see it because I talk to these young men and young women that are just getting married.
Plus, I just ordered 2 additional speed radars today.
Yeah.
So we're outfitting more cars with the radars. We have more officers trained in speed detection. So they're out there.
And it's going to get around if somebody
They're
gets
out there,
them 190, them 90-something people that got a ticket.
Yeah, 92 out of 121
Them
stops
92
for
are going to
speeding.
tell them 92 are going to tell their friends, Miami Springs is, you can't go, so I think it's going to rotate out before we have to think about spending more money.
In all fairness to Councilman Mitchell, though, I think that we should not just dismiss this tonight, but maybe going. No, I know you're not. But going forward toward the budget, if we could maybe discuss this in and out of a couple meetings going forward, maybe new ideas will emerge.
Yeah.
And that's all I'm asking is before, and I know right before the budget comes, we think up possibilities. Obviously there's things in our need to do list, and then there's also our wish list. And this may be something to, particularly if William, if you work with with the chief, and if you think you need some residents. Residents have spoken a lot about this, so residents are concerned about the speeding issue. Is coming up with something that is doable in certain areas that would at least,
Well, I think we have to do a better job at passing on the information to the residents, because we can live in the safest area, zero crime, but if in our minds there is crime, that's our reality. So by doing the report, by showing what we've been doing, I'm trying to say, this is what we've been doing. We're not speeding in any city. But by continuously doing what we're doing and just putting the information out there, they start to see, oh. And there's going to be skeptics. And I have to share a funny side story. I didn't ask who, but a person that was stopped told the officer, "I'm one of the ones that complains about speeding."
Yeah.
But this person was stopped for speeding.
And that's why some of them, like she says, complain. There's some of them that came to the meetings I see when I'm around town and say, I think I see a difference. So I think we're doing okay.
And I've got to say that I'm guilty of speeding through the city. Sometimes honestly, I don't realize it. You all of a sudden it's like you're just the street.
And she was the one that I waved to slow down, and there was some kind of a middle finger that came out.
We all develop
some kind of a
bad driving habits throughout years. And to us it's normal.
Yep. And the reminder to slow down is really important a lot for me personally, because I'm as guilty as anyone else. The other thing, Chief, I just wanted to, and saying that you're so right, that education is so important, and what I've been finding out with the traffic calming and how to reduce speed, in addition to the enforcement, which is number one, education. The traffic calming and education, they say, is really, really important, education of the community. So thank you so much.
And one further thing, Chief, before you leave the well there, that publication or that report that you issued at our last meeting, I'd like to thank Tammy Key and Anna Hume for publishing that in the Gazette in the city. And it is out now, obviously, to all the people. Everybody can read all of the statistics, everything we read, they can read. So that's excellent.
I really think the city did a great job of putting that out there. Not only like the city, but also the paper put it out. And I shared it at the Rotary and left a report with them. And I also shared it at the Lions Club. because that's way of getting it out to people who are local and can also spread that word out. And all I want to say is that we're doing a great job in terms of all that, and I think that that's becoming apparent that the police is doing a great job to the residents. I just think that at any opportunity that we can be strategic about specific areas like around the parks and things, that we should take advantage of that. But we can't stop it all.
Thank you. Okay. Thanks, Chief. Okay, we go to 12B, discussion of a possible dog park at Reagan.
Yeah, this is a memo.
Before you read the memo,
Yeah.
I think that for people that are in the audience and everything, the memo says city staff recommends the creation of a dog park. I think it should state like it says so that people don't get worked up, that it's going to be a discussion of a possible dog park.
Okay.
In the memo. I don't think that the staff, this recommendation by staff, I think that the recommendation and the discussion are backwards. The recommendation should have been the Miami Association of Realtors and so on. Then so that people know that nobody's up here's talked about having a dog park. This is just somebody that's offering some money to do a dog park. And I knew. But I figured you'd be here, Mayor. The Mayor of the East. Oh yeah. I got another name for that, but I'm not gonna say. So go ahead, sir.
This is a member from Tammy Key, and she's here. She can. She's going to come up and address more of the details later. But basically, the Miami Association of Realtors approached us and met with Tammy, and she's been dealing with them. They have a grant fund that they have in the amount of $5,000 for different types of projects throughout the city. And I know, Tammy, you've worked with her on different projects, but they became costly. So we tried to stay within the $5,000 number, and one of the things that they have done in other locations are dog parks. So we thought about the area of the east side of town. We have a pretty large park there, Reagan Park, which is open space, and dedicating a part of it to creating a mini dog park with the future intent. And talking to Omar is on the other side, maybe in next year's budget, put in like a little playground for kids so that we can utilize that area more efficiently. So that's basically where we're at now. I don't know, Tammy, if you want to add anything more to it.
The first thing that popped in my head was if they're working to help a dog park out, could be another Tiki Hut put at our dog park, which was under $5,000 for shade and everything in the incoming place where they lost that big tree. Because when people go by, I see them using it. So they want to help a dog park out.
If I may, Mayor, may I say something before Tammy speaks? The Miami Association of Realtors, it's not specifically with a dog park. They're very generously approached our city and said that they would like to do a project for our city, and they have $5,000. So this is just something I want to make it clear that it's not that their intent it has to be a dog park at anything.
Right.
They want to do a project for our city.
I thought you told me it was for the dog park. That it was dedicated money for a dog park.
No, it doesn't have to necessarily be for a dog park.
Okay, so you're just looking to spend this money somewhere in the city.
Well, we've gone back and forth with them, and the situation is it can't be for anything that's a capital improvement project. They are looking to activate a space in the city, whether it's a green space, an alley, or whatnot, and give people a reason to go there. So they're looking for a neighborhood improvement project, and they actually mentioned that area to me, and that was one of the things that they said they typically funded. We had suggested to them previously the gazebo, doing some improvements to that, because they also want it to be a volunteer project for their people to come out and participate. So it can't be something like, pouring concrete, but like painting or, doing some plantings or something like that. That fits into the parameters of what they're looking for. Oh, okay. But they said no to the gazebo because they said that basically it's an existing structure and that's great, but we want to do something new somewhere else. The problem that we're having is that with a $5,000 budget, to do something like a dog park, even on a smaller scale, it's probably going to run about I'm guessing because I don't have all the quotes yet, but you know, $15,000-$20,000.
It's money that
So-
it's a nice gesture, but it's for a better way of not saying it's not enough.
Right. Right. So we would have to come up with something that is, you know, on a smaller scale. So we can go
Mayor.
back to the drawing board with them. Certainly.
Mayor, if I might suggest, we're currently working on the Historical Society building. Maybe you can look at that area over there, where they might put some chairs or something.
Yeah, again, they said they wouldn't do anything on an existing structure, and they
Well, it
also
doesn't have to be in the structure. It could be around the structure.
Right.
Like maybe there's a park there already, but maybe I don't know, something. Just to look at it. It doesn't have to be on the actual building, but it could be around it, because we hope to have it open by July 20th,
Well-
or finished by July 20th.
Yeah. I mean, in the description that they provided to us, they said that whatever we did, whatever space we reactivated, that there would have to be 10 reasons to go there. That's what they're looking for. So they said in the past they were giving the 5,000 and people were putting a bench in a park, and they said that was all good and well, but that's not what they're really looking to do. They're looking for the space to be utilized for many different reasons.
Well, see, my
We can certainly-
recommendation for backup for the council, that should have been there, so we understand what their ideas are of how to spend the money, so that we
Okay.
can understand what's going on coming here. So I understand that what the realtors want to, and what their parameters are of how they want to spend that $5,000.
Right.
So if we could have read that, and we know if we could get that memo and read it, maybe we could come up with some thoughts, and of course you'll work on it too.
Sure.
For next meeting of something that could be put forward to maybe spend that 5,000.
Okay. All right. Thank you.
And Mayor, if I may, Tammy, if possible, with the Reagan Park, and we have residents
talk?
from here, you know, that live near Reagan Park, but perhaps there's some other use or some other way that even that area can be made nice as a public area, you know, for the 5,000, not necessarily a dog park, but I know we're very short of recreational space throughout the city, so if there's a possibility of using that space for just pick up soccer games, you know, the kids to throw balls and stuff when the other fields are closed, that would be wonderful. And again, you know, there's residents here that live in that area, so they might have ideas of. Again, I want to stress that it's very generous on the part of the Miami Realtors Association to, you know, want to do a project in our community that benefits our community and being outdoors and enjoying areas that are underused in our community.
Okay. Thank you.
Okay. Thank you.
Yeah, and you know, one other thing here is, you know, we don't want to discourage outfits like this from coming forward to the city, because
but-
these grants that we are fortunate enough to get are dear to us.
I agree with that.
Yeah.
That's why if we have the information of what, as you look at this, what has been writ here, it's only for a dog park.
Right.
And so if council could have had the information in front of them,
We could have come up with some maybe
we
better.
could have
other
maybe
ideas.
had an
Yeah.
idea where to spend the 5,000, and the fact that the project is something they want to do with their hands, and with you know, so we know, because that's how you make decisions.
Yeah, I'm sure we can come up with something.
You're right.
Absolutely certain.
It's right. I got a speaker to this, some lady, Neri Owens.
Good evening, Mayor and Council. Neri Owens, 169 Corridon. I spent a lot of my life living over on East Drive. My parents lived there from 1958 to 2013. And at one time, when my son was small, I had a house on Forest. So I know the area. It's really high density on South Royal Point Siena, where those apartments are. And you do have Stafford with a lot of activity, a lot of ball fields, a lot of kids running around in that tot lot. What you really ideally need is passive recreation. If you could take that $5,000 and put a butterfly park with butterfly plantings and a couple of maybe benches, but also picnic areas. So some of the residents that live in those apartments can go over and have a quiet picnic without being in the middle of central Stafford because it gets really busy there on weekends. So, and you need to add a little parking. I don't think it's big enough for a dog park with the parking and the water fountain and all of the things that were enumerated in that memo that I read. It would be as big as Dove, and your Dove dog park is big. You've got for small dogs and for big dogs. I really think this should be a people park, passive recreation, maybe little birthday parties that people can have or sit and read, walk over there with their dog on a leash. I've seen a lot of the residents do walk over there because I go by there a lot. And they use the park with their dog, and then they leash them and walk them back to their house. So please try for a butterfly park. You might have $5,000 worth, a couple of picnic tables and a butterfly park. Not necessarily a chickie, Mayor, just picnic tables. There's nice trees over there right now.
All ideas are open.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you. That's B. Now we go to request 12C, request scheduled meeting by staff.
This is a request for a special meeting to discuss the city's gateway entrance on the incoming outgoing bridge. For many years, past councils and residents have expressed a need to enhance the beauty and look of the gateway entrance to the city on the incoming outgoing bridge. To this end, the administration would like to schedule a special meeting for Monday, June 4th, in order to discuss options that would enhance this area and further the goals, objectives, and policies of the council and the residents of Miami Springs. During this meeting, we will discuss ideas for improving buildings, landscaping, signage, architecture, and other design standards that may be needed to ensure an attractive and viable area for the residents of the city to enjoy.
Okay, is everybody going to be able to come to Monday night's meeting?
I have a question. Why do we have to do this in a special meeting? Can't we do it in a regular meeting?
It's probably more conducive to just an open, fluid discussion. Our intent, like as we mentioned to you, is to meet with all of you individually, start creating that foundation of information of ideas, reconcile it with some of the things that we have been working on, and then hash it out, and then potentially bring back to you a finished policy by a regular council meeting.
Right.
Are we going to have participation from the audience, or is this strictly for?
It's up to you. I mean, it's a special meeting, or.
I will recommend that, yes, we have participation from the audience.
Mayor,
Yes.
if I may, my concern is I think it's really important to have participation from the audience for
I
this.
just said we will have
No, but
participation from the audience.
I know, but my concern is if it's going to be next Monday, there's not a whole lot of time for them to know.
Just recall that after June, we have a break in July.
Yeah.
And then
We're
we'll
idle.
get busy with the budget. Any policies that we bring forward will be by ordinance. So it'll at least require a couple additional readings or a couple additional opportunities for discussion, all of which time people will have the opportunity to come and take bites of the apple, if you will.
Councilwomen, would you rather do it like on a Wednesday, to give you a little bit more time?
I would not me. I would like the,
Or the
because
folks.
because whatever we work on with the resolutions and all this, it would be helpful to already have input from the residents. You know, it'll instead of going backtracking once we come up with something and then we get a lot of feedback that may not fit in with what you've already proposed.
If you want to have more notice to the resident for this first meeting, if Wednesday is 7 o'clock is more conducive to city council, we'll do it. But I don't see any
what's the
reason.
difference?
Well, let me
I don't
ask-
see. I don't see the reason for Monday. I don't see any reason for it. I think we could do it Monday because this is going to be an ongoing situation going through. And at Monday's meeting, if we don't get far enough or understand what we're trying to do on Monday's meeting, we could schedule another one before the next council meeting.
Well, I don't think her concern is about us. It's
I
giving enough
understand
time
that.
for the
I
folks.
understand that.
Well, I think it does matter about for us because we're going to get all the ups and downs and
Before.
ins and outs of this.
Yeah.
And we have to be able to
To get
digest
started
this
on
and
it.
get started on it. Yeah. I have no problem with Monday, Mayor.
Okay.
Can I-
I guess I need a
Can
motion.
Can I add something?
Sure, you can ask anything you want.
Add, not ask. I understand the idea of the council being informed, because if we're informed prior to the open meeting with the public, then we don't take time away from them. we already have some foundation, and
That's right.
I'd like to have some foundation. So if I could meet with you like tomorrow to just learn more about it, I'm willing to do that. But I am all 100% for community and resident participation. But I like to be really informed.
Okay.
We can also go ahead and make sure that the advisory boards get an email saying that this is happening.
Okay, I need a motion
And
then for Monday
Could I
night's.
ask one more thing, Mayor?
I like a motion first for Monday night's meeting.
Through the chair, motion to move for the
For
Monday
the
meeting
4th.
with audience and resident participation.
Second.
Okay, further discussion.
I was going to ask, is there the Gazette that goes out this week goes to, no? Okay. Okay.
And don't
If I could
don't
carry that
worry,
information.
don't worry
All right.
about it.
No, it's
It'll
fine.
get out. It'll get out. Everybody knows I have gray hair, so it'll all get out. Miss Mitchell, Councilwoman Mitchell, it'll get out as far as you can imagine. It'll get out.
I think through
Don't
through
worry
the,
about it.
through the public information side, William can ensure that it gets out through Tammy and Anna and stuff. So it'll get out there, Maria.
Don't worry.
Sure, absolutely.
Don't worry. That's why we're going to try to have this as that's why I think it behooves us to get started on it. And if it doesn't work out, we could go another meeting. If it doesn't work out, maybe we'll have to do it after July. So,
You have a motion, Mayor.
okay. First and second call a vote.
Vice Mayor Zapata?
Yes.
Councilman Bass?
Aye.
Councilwoman Mitchell?
Yes.
Councilman Petrolanda?
Yes.
Mayor Bing?
Yes. That ends the meeting, I think. We have any remarks from the
City attorney.
Anything from the attorneys? Nothing at all? Heidi, you have nothing to say?
I wouldn't want to step on your toes again, Mayor.
You learn. That's why he's our attorney. He learns fast. City managers.
I just wanted to thank Councilman Best for the Memorial Day ceremony yesterday, and for all of you that were present and the residents that came out. I was told that it's by Patty, who's organized a lot of these, that it's one of the best ones she's seen in years. So, and if you haven't heard Bob's speech, we have part of it on our city Facebook page. I heard it was an impressive speech too. And the only other thing, I wanted to congratulate Councilman Petrolanda on the new addition to his family this weekend.
Thank you. Thank you. Yeah. Thank you. I'm
Boy or
humble.
girl?
I'm humble.
Boy or girl?
Girl.
A girl?
Yes.
Nice, Jamie.
2 girls and a boy now. Grandfathers to a
Two-
boy and 2 girls.
Good. Good for you.
Thank you.
He looked like he'd be a good grandpa.
You got some
I am.
friends. And Tammy's got
Without
some-
that, I'm sorry I even said it. You-
I'm gonna agree with you,
Anything
man.
else?
Tammy's got some events coming up.
Really, the only events that are coming up are the community center, a lot of community center events. Just a reminder that the swim lessons are still going on, so if you want to register for your kids for those. The Board Gaming Society is still every Saturday at noon. The summer basketball camp opens up on the 11th of next month at 9 a.m. and also the Get Fit camp also at 9 a.m. the same day on the 11th. That's it.
We're also working, the announcement will come out pretty soon, but sometime in July at the Recreation Center, we're gonna have some CPR classes, free to the community. So that's coming up. We'll probably announce that in the next week or 2.
That's for July.
That'd be pretty neat. Are they gonna practice on humans, or are they gonna have that?
Oh, they got the doll.
I knew it was gonna
They got the doll.
Are you gonna be there, Nori? Yeah, no, you don't want to be there.
To get practiced on?
What date is that gonna be, you think?
It's gonna be in July, but we don't have a date.
Okay.
We'll
All
come
right.
back
yet.
That's all?
That's it.
Thank you. Councilman Petrolaga?
Thank you, Mayor. Well, I want to thank William for acknowledging the new addition to my family. Thank everyone for all the well wishes. I also want to congratulate Bob for the job that he did. He just gets better every year, I guess. This one's right to the point. Everything went smooth. Even the weather. I don't know how he did that, but the weather. He did a wonderful job. Thank you, Bob. Keep it up. The last thing I need to talk about with the rest of you is I spoke with the city attorney and city manager regarding some consensus. The idea is in the near future, when we start moving the new shuttle to the airport, or the EB shuttle that's going to be taking our folks to the airport. My vision is to have 2 or 3 spots for overnight parking, and he's looking for consensus if we're okay with that. Now he has to sit with the chief and iron out the details on how this is going to work and if it's going to work at all. But before he can do that, he needs consensus from us, thinking that if that's something we want to do. And I hope that we can give them the consensus, because I think it's something that at least we need to look at, see if we can do it.
Okay, can you do me a favor?
Sure.
When you have something like this, put on the agenda that you're asking for consensus, and put on the agenda so it's not at the end of the meeting, and not on the we had.
I don't want to throw anybody on the bus, but this is the way I was asked to do it.
Okay, but I think he should put on the agenda that he's asking for this kind of help. so
Well, he's
that
just asking for consensus so that we can go
Still
out
should
and.
be- it still should be-
Similar to what we did the last time, we got
Yeah, but
consensus on.
this has got to be, in my opinion,
Maybe I
gotta
think
kind of
when-
stop at the end and making
Because of money being
decisions. It's
spent.
got to be put in. It's got to be put in the agenda so we understand what we're talking about here.
Well,
But I
Mayor,
have no problem to go ahead and
just talk
have-
about it then.
you have my consent.
Thank you.
Okay.
I'm thinking the
I don't
way
know
they
about
were, the reasoning was
You're
that,
fine.
no, but the reasoning, I hate to throw anyone under the bus, but I think the reasoning is they want to put it together and then bring it up to us, rather than, start working without consensus on our own. I think that's what, I don't want to speak for you. That's what I think we had spoken, we
right.
want to do it.
All right.
But thank you.
Okay. Anything else?
That's it.
Okay, Grandpa.
Thank you.
Yeah, I think that makes sense. My consent is given.
What?
Whatever. I'm tired. I'm tired. It's been a long day.
Tuesday.
I want to congratulate you, Bob. I know that I did for the job you did yesterday. I want you to know that I was out in the community yesterday afternoon, and people stopped me to say what a nice event it had been and to compliment you. And I said, trust me, everyone complimented him. So it was really great.
Thank you.
And the other one thing I want to mention is I met yesterday with some folks from the Historical Society and visited the location where they're thinking of putting up the museum. They've made a lot of progress, and I've encouraged them to come out and share just what kind of progress they made. And I want to thank Tammy and William for speaking to me today about that. And I just wanted to give them a heads up that they will be at some point approaching the city. And I think it's important that we really understand how much work or not has been they've done as far as the historical. And that's all I have to say.
Thank you. Councilman Best?
I'd like to thank all of you and those that were there at the memorial yesterday for the kind words. I'm trying to make arrangements to have what we wrote and delivered yesterday put in the Gazette. I've given it to Mr. Daly and to his staff for the next issue of the Gazette, so hopefully it will be produced so all can read it. I have fun writing these things. I've been honored to be asked to do Veterans Day and Memorial Day for 10 years I've been doing it, something like that. And it's just an honor for me to represent the city and to say some words on behalf of the occasion. So thank you. Secondly, again, Chief, accolades for your report and for your action last week with that ridiculous percentage of speeding tickets versus pullovers. I mean, that was just amazing. Thank you, sir. I don't know if who had a chance to go to the Pelican Playhouse, the production of A Servant of Two Masters. I had the opportunity Saturday night to go, and it was a well-run production. It was all adults. I think there was about 8 actors only, and it wasn't very long, but it hit on old 16th century, 17th century Italy. And the cast just pulled this off like there was none of my congratulations to Ralph and Nancy Wakefield, Nancy Jones rather, for putting that out and staging it. Juan Iglesias was outrageous. He was the lead role, and funny, and it moved. It didn't just die. It just moved. It was a very well produced piece, and I was happy I had the opportunity. They overdo themselves in putting on these presentations, and the only reason this ran for only 1 week was because they did the Child's thing. I believe it was last weekend, the Spoon and the Fiddle, was it? And so they normally run them for 2 weeks, but in this case they just ran it for 1. So that was good. Happy Memorial Day. Thank you, Mayor.
Councilwoman Mitchell?
Thank you, Councilman Best, for your Memorial Day activities for heading that. yesterday, and I agree it was. And thank you, the community, for showing up. It was just wonderful to see so much of the community there to participate in Memorial Day. And I just wanted to mention that the Women's Club had a contingency of Women's Club members that several of them were at the Memorial Day activity ceremony, but several of them took part in a nationwide initiative where they place red roses on the graves of all military cemeteries. So they were here in, I think it's in Tampa, the National Cemetery, and they were there placing roses on the grave markers of our fallen military servicemen. So I wanted to thank them for taking that trip and doing it on behalf of Miami Springs. Also, I was at Pelican Playhouse on Sunday afternoon. I caught the matinee.
You did see it then.
And
Yeah.
it's wonderful.
Yeah,
It's
really
you know,
good.
there's so much to do in Miami Springs. If we don't want to leave Miami Springs, there's so much to do here. You can be busy every single weekend with the activities that are here, and it was a great. And Ralph and Nancy do a fantastic job putting that together, and the players were just fun. It was fun. The other thing I wanted to mention is the swim lessons that I know the city manager mentioned that we have swim lessons right now, and I wanted to encourage all residents in Miami Springs, if your children don't know how to swim, please, please, please enroll them in swim lessons this summer. It's unconscionable for anyone to grow up in Miami Springs with our aquatic center, with as many pools as there are, with as many canals, and not learn to swim. So I think that's just a really important, it should be a priority for every resident here in Miami Springs this summer to make sure that their children learn how to swim if they don't already know how. I also wanted to mention that a month ago, and I should have mentioned it at the last meeting, but I forgot, Miami Springs was again received distinguished honors in the Miami Herald. They had a list of the 30 best places in Miami-Dade County to get burgers. And in the past, we've had Juniors. Then we had Juniors and the Airport Liquor and Bar. And now out of 30 places in Miami-Dade County, we scored 3 restaurants. Juniors, the Airport Liquor and Bar, and Tom's NFL. So I just thought that was amazing. That information about Miami Springs, the reasons to come visit our city and frequent our shops and restaurants is getting out there. And the last thing is to the city manager, I wanted and Tom Nash to thank you for the parking signs. I've seen those really attractive parking signs going up all over the city, and they're great. They're really nice, and they're giving a lot of direction for people that come visit as to where they can find additional parking. So thank you so much for putting those up. That's all.
This meeting is adjourned.
Nothing to say, man? I was waiting for you.
What do you say when Bria Mitchell talks first? You got
Willie.
nothing to say.
Willie. I gave Tammy a copy of this for you guys.